We've got some news to update everybody on your ongoing USADA situation. Let's just recap for anybody who's unaware and maybe hasn't gone back to the episode from last March to refresh their memory. But after your last fight, which was a year ago this March, you fought Mark Hunt. You were flagged by USADA in a post-fight test for a metabolite of a banned substance. Up until very recently, you were under the impression that because you had had a clean test about 6 weeks prior, which was at the beginning of February by USADA, a random test, that if that one was clean and the post-fight test about 6 weeks later was not, then you had about a 6-week window to focus on to try to figure out what happened. Okay, because your position was that you had not knowingly taken anything, so whatever happened would have been somewhere within that 6-week span. Right. The news that we're going to update everybody on tonight, and you can kind of take it from here, is that you have now been told that test, the random test at the beginning of February that was conducted by USADA, that they have been telling you for the last year was a clean one. They're now saying that it had the same trace metabolite in it, and that now creates a whole new scope of questions, and you can maybe set it up from there.
Well, yeah, it makes it extremely difficult now for me because I was in the same boat as several other athletes, like a Tim Means type, a Yoel Romero type, that obviously they didn't take anything, but supplement companies or something they unintentionally ingested flagged them. And they were able to, because USADA was able to say, okay, you didn't have anything in your system at this point. You had something in your system at this point. Okay, you have A to B. Figure it out, And that's basically what I was under the impression, because when they came in here and sat in my kitchen, USADA, to first tell me about the first time that I failed, they told me without doubt that, well, it wasn't in your system in February, we tested for it, which now they're telling me that they took it to a different lab which has better testing procedures, which they never said that in the first place. I wish they would have told me that, saying, well, hey, this is a new test. We never tested your urine before on that random test, so we don't know when this was introduced to your body. No, instead, they sat there and told me, well, you were clean. Well, telling someone they're clean means that I didn't test for it. That's like me going down and saying, hey, I did some blood work. Let's go ahead and, let's get frisky. It's like, all right, so you're HIV negative? Well, yeah, I'm clean. Did you actually get tested for AIDS? Well, no, but I'm clean. I didn't have AIDS, but if you never were tested for it, how can you say that? And so that was kind of the situation I was in, where I'm looking at it going, well, you guys said that I didn't have it in my system. That's why I got so fanatical and obsessed with the timelines, knowing that if I this drug had been introduced to my body at some point, I'm trying to pinpoint where it's at. And I'm told that science, through the breakdown of metabolites and half-life, can kind of give you an idea. And that was the first flag that kind of was raised back then in March and April when they were sitting in my kitchen last year, was that, well, these are low-level metabolites, and for it to be this low level, it means that you were exposed to the drug 6 to 8 weeks ago. And so I kind of stood on the fact that, like, well, that didn't make any sense, guys. They're like, well, that's just how it is. And, they didn't have an answer for me. Well, come to find out, they realized that was kind of stupid. And so they go and they retest it. They send the labs work over, which I don't know why they didn't do in the first place. They're the scientist. Here I'm a non-college graduate, and I can sit there and go, hey, guys, those numbers don't add up. You know what I mean? Like, if you're telling me that, it'd be like someone drinking alcohol going, all right, 4 weeks later, your blood alcohol level was point something. It's like, well, isn't there a breakdown period that my body will assimilate? I mean, it's not an exact science, but it breaks down. Yeah. So you're telling me that, the breakdown, I should have been dirty to begin with. In fact, not just metabolite dirty, I should have actually had the real drug in my system. You could have pinpointed, and then I could have said, wow, okay, well, obviously whatever supplement I'm taking, somebody's putting something in this and not coming clean. And so, they go, and now I'm finding out they retested it. So now the problem that I'm having with that is I've been suspicious of this test to begin with because when this first happened, the player, baseball player Chris Colabello, right, called me up, same situation, several other athletes, and now they just released, and we can refer to the article. We'll give a link to it in the TASS. It's the number 4 largest news agency in the world, number 1 in Russia. Their deputy prime minister is now saying that the guy who invented this test, he's being sued by several athletes are having lawsuits against this guy saying the test, and the guy quotes going, they can find it in coffee. I'm like, what? This test is not as accurate, and USADA might have jumped on it too soon to use it before it had proven itself. And now maybe this guy, they're saying, well, now we don't know where these metabolites, what causes a false positive, or even how long this false positive can occur. So now I have 2 different demons I'm trying to slay. One going, all right, well, if you're saying the metabolites were in me in February and it could go back for years, well, there was a time I was pretty heavy into powerlifting, and I took all kinds of supplements, everything legal, obviously. Kind of like
USADA guidelines.
Right. Well, before that, it was kind of like it was much more simple. Like, all right, look, you can't take pro hormones, but everything else at the nutrition store, go ahead and go at it. Now it's like a laundry list of stuff you can't take. That's why I was so convinced that something I might have eaten, because once USADA came in July, I pretty much dumped all my supplements. I had all different companies, because before Reebok, I got sponsored quite a bit by different supplement companies, and that went to the wayside. So now I have a whole cupboard full of stuff that people have sent me and I've taken, and and things that all above board and legal things. And I'm like, well, USADA it's so strict, why bother taking anything? So when they came to me and said, well, you were clean, it was during this time, I didn't want to make shit up and go, well, I was taking this. I was like, look, guys, I'm going to be honest. I was taking fish oil, I take an aspirin, and I take a multivitamin. It was like a couple other things, like, okay, well, this protein shake I take down at the gym they make for me, it was very, very easy for me just to pick out what I was taking, because I had a 6-week period to work with under USADA's regulation that I knew of what I was taking. So now I got to go back years. I mean, you're talking 2 years from the date of the test, which now is 3 years from now, that I got to sit and go, I've thrown shit away that I don't even know. Because, the wife goes, Frank, are you ever going to take this? It's a half bottle of creatine from one company. Like, nah, screw it, throw it away. Or, hey, let's, hey, one of our, good friends, kid's 20 years old, he's at the gym lifting weights. I'm like, just give it to him. I have a bunch of shit sent to me for free all the time. So now I'm going to have to sit to try to rewind in my brain, like, all right, where do I even begin to unravel this mystery? So that's the one issue I'm having now, where it's like, well, thanks, guys. Like, you've had me now focused and spending so much money to test all these things out of my own pocket to find out what could have been introduced into my system. And now I'm finding out, well, we screwed up. We were wrong. It could go back years now. All right. And then on the other end of it, the other demon that I'm facing is the fact that this test might not even be a legitimate test. There could be problems with it, because there seems to be quite a few drug tests out there. Why is this one being flagged more than any other one by athletes saying, I didn't do the shit, it's not right? And then having other people, scientists, coming in and putting out papers going, hey man, this test is not what you think it is. It's not, we don't know enough about it yet. It's not accurate. And so they don't say that about other drugs. I mean, most other athletes that come with a drug, you don't have a whole bunch of guys coming with lawsuits going, what you're testing for isn't right. Pretty much established. It's like, well, it was in your system, and now their point of argument is to figure out, okay, well, how did it get in my system? I didn't knowingly take it. I unintentionally took it. Because it's kind of like the dirty secret of the supplement company. It's been known, the supplement companies, and Tim Means is a huge example of that when you want to research his case, where, Yoel Romero, same thing. They come out with a product and go, okay.
Oh, gosh, don't do that. Earth Spruce completely. Yeah. You don't have to worry about, no one has, let me just stop here a second. No one has ever consumed Earth Sprue and then been flagged by USADA for a violation.
Let's say you and I open up a supplement company. We have brand X.
Yeah, don't do it with real water.
Jeez, man. Okay, well,
Starbucks. They're not a sponsor. Yeah, use that as a prop. There you go.
So we want to go ahead and have an energy drink, right?
Yes.
So we go ahead and put small levels of meth in it. all of a sudden this energy drink is kick ass. Everybody talks about it. Everybody's going to go buy it because it works really well. Now, obviously, we're not going to disclose. And the minute a couple months down the road we get caught having it in there, we just clean it up, take it out, or maybe even take it out before anybody comes the wiser to it. And so we have a 6-month run of some contaminated stuff. Now we have one hell of a good reputation. Everybody's buying us. And it'll take years before they realize that it's garbage now because that illegal substance we were putting in there, we took out. And it happens more often. I mean, now, because of my situation, a little bit of research and talking to the attorney I have, I'm like, holy shit, that happens a lot? Yeah, way more than you think, because the FDA doesn't really regulate the supplement company like they do, what we eat and what we drink on a daily basis. And so there's a lot of gray area that these guys can do some crazy shit. So usually that's what you're trying to do as an athlete right now with USADA. You're trying to figure out, like, all right, what did I take that could have contained this substance to give me a positive test that I didn't knowingly take, and ultimately they say you're responsible for it and time served once you figure out what it is. But now I'm being opened up from a period of time where I thought it was a pain in the ass to figure out what I've took and eaten for 6 to 8 weeks of my life. Try going 3 years back and, what restaurant did you eat at? What supplement, especially somebody like myself, like I said, that, I mean, I have a cabinet full of things that were sent to me over the years. I have no clue where to begin. And now I'm, and it makes it difficult because not only do I wish this test was concrete. I wish that it was like the test for Winstrol or the test for, testosterone, where I can sit there and go, okay, very obvious this was my system. Let me focus 100% in finding out where this was introduced into my system. I'm kind of like, I got two eyes here going. One eye going, all right, I got to try to figure out where I was contaminated, but I can't help but have these self-doubts going, I don't think this test is that accurate, and funny that on Friday, before USADA released again the information that about the testing, and then to say that the failed test in February, they were real adamant. They wanted me to sign a paper, and saying that if I didn't sign this paper, like it was issues about it, like and the lawyers and stuff were like, well, hold on, because some of the thing was basically saying that I admit that yes, I'm guilty and whatnot. I'm like looking at it, I'm like, but I'm not guilty. Why do I have to agree to something that's not true? And it was, and the one thing that kind of caught me was like, and we're not held responsible. You can't go back and sue us. And that's when I kind of looked at that. I'm like, okay, hold on a second. Why are you guys concerned with whether or not I could sue you or not, or hold you responsible? Like, I can't. That doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm guilty, right, guys? Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. You didn't sign the.
Hell no. Not after I seen the thing too that was released on the 20. Where it said the one doctor went, well, this guy was fired and he left Russia, and now we don't really know if we have several people really calling into question whether his test is even effective or not.
So as I hear this, I mean, just maybe to sort of put it in layman's terms, it's sort of like, if you lost your car keys, you're going to go, okay, when is the last time I drove the car, right? And you're going to trace it back from there. For the last year, you've been thinking that the car keys were missing for about 6 weeks, and now you find out that they're basically broadening the scope to could be as much as 3 years.
I was never given a definitive answer. That's the part too that I said, how far back could this go? The science, they're telling me we don't know.
And yeah, because the other problem with that too is, and it's important to reiterate the pre-USADA, post-USADA eras, because at least within that initial 6 weeks you were talking about, you knew you were under USADA's guidelines.
Right, where they took a class.
I've
seen how strict they were.
Sure. So you would have narrowed the scope. You would have been more diligent about supplements, things like that.
Yeah.
Now, to find out that this could go back 3 years, now you're getting into, you didn't even know probably the term USADA back then, and didn't know that you were going to be under their regulation. So 3 years was a different world altogether. It's kind of what you're explaining. Now, Frank's got a full statement on his Facebook page at official Frank Mir. But one of the things that you brought up in the statement was that you have been. I mean, we sat on your back porch here just a little over a year ago, And when all this first happened, and you can go back and listen to the whole thing at phoneboothfighting.com, all the episodes are archived. But, I mean, you were adamant in your denial then. You stayed consistent with that. One of the things that you pointed out in the statement is that your position on this has been and remains consistent, but now USADA has two different versions to their story.
First, I'm being told that I was a clean test. Then they're telling me that that lab didn't test for it to begin with, which would have been great information to give me when they first tested me.
Yeah.
Saying that, all right, well, this test now, it's a new test. Did you test me before? I was told yes, that the lab tested for it to begin with. So my February tests, they're telling me, came up clean. Unless we're just playing the dumb game that I play with sometimes my kids, like, did you take out the garbage? Yes. And I look over and the garbage is not in the garbage can, but it's next to the garbage can. And so technically they took the garbage out of the garbage can. I'm like, well, did you actually take the garbage out of the can? Did you walk it to the street? Did you put it in the dumpster? Did you close the lid? You know what I mean? So I feel like I'm almost having a conversation with my child going, all right, so you didn't find it in February? No. Okay, I'm sorry. Did you look for it in February? Was it tested at the lab that would find it? I didn't ask that question. I assumed, since they said that I was clean, and they even came out and said before that I had a negative test in February, what would be the point of talking about if I had a negative test or not if they never tested for the substance to begin with? It wasn't like, well, he was negative for all other things and still negative for all those things in March, but now the new test in March found something, but which we never tested for. Like, to me, it's like, get your act together. Like, is that not what you did, or did you do it? And so, and then again, I guess now there's the slight conspiracy theorist to me is a little bit suspicious, going, wait a minute, the biggest hole in your story the first time was your own science saying that I had low-level metabolites in my system in March. I kept saying, well, how is that possible? If you urine and blood tested me in February and found nothing, how did I ingest it and it have enough time on a timetable to break down in that 6 weeks down to low-level metabolites? Meant that basically you're saying that you guys came and drug tested me. I went upstairs, I ingested these drugs, and then decided to not take them anymore, because we all know that taking steroids for one day does phenomenal shit for you, right? And I'm like, so what did I have, like a coming to Jesus moment, which, if you know me, is not ever going to happen, right?
Yeah.
Did I sit there and take the supplement and go, oh, I shouldn't have done this, and then stop taking it? Like, what benefit would it have done for me? And then I'm too stupid to not take the test in March. If I took something and then decided that it was a bad thing to do it and tried to avoid being detected, the easiest way not to get tested? Don't fight.
Oh, right.
My back hurts. My knee
come
hurts.
up with an injury or something.
It isn't hard. You know what I mean? Like, after 15 years of fighting, I can pretty much walk in the hospital. If you say, hey, we need you to come up with an injury, I'm like, what part of my body do you want to pick first? You know what I mean? Because the focus... Well, finish on the conspiracy part that was frustrating me is that, so I kept saying, you guys, your own test says I'm negative and now I'm positive. That makes no sense on the breakdown of metabolites. Like, wouldn't they be high level of metabolites? Like, because it was relatively new in my system just for the last couple of weeks. They're like, well, only if you only took it for a day or two. I'm like, all right, that just sounds stupid. Listen to what you're saying. I was very frustrated when I was talking to him in the kitchen. I'm like, that doesn't make sense. So now they come out and go, okay, I know Amir's story makes more sense than our story. So, you know what? His February test was also positive. We sent it to a different lab, a lab that we use exclusively. It's one of the labs that we use the most, which to me, it's like, really? So I don't know. USADA's, responsible for testing people, and I realize that the intentions are a good thing to try to keep a clean sport.
Yeah.
But could you imagine what would it do if all of a sudden, let's just say 6 months ago, they're in the lab and they figure out this Russian guy that invented the test is under a lot of heat, and they're talking about it, going, shit, man, we kind of jumped the gun. We started implementing this test before we probably waited till it matured a little bit and other people had ran its course. We jumped the gun because we're constantly looking for any way to nail anybody for anything, for even, taking some 7-Eleven supplement, right? And so now all of a sudden, what if their test was wrong and they know it? Like, what would that do to them as a corporate? I mean, not only me, as far as I'm going to go back and sue the shit out of them, you know what I mean? Like, everybody's going to get screwed in this deal. wouldn't it be to their best benefit to bury me? Wouldn't it be to their, like, all right, look, we fucked up. Let's not test anybody else with this test. Let's just, because they went back and tested me in February, retested my supplement, why didn't they test everybody else's too then? Because what if the other guys that fought on that card that they sent my February, that era that they've been sending that test, do they go back and test all them too? Because, I mean, they're really trying to look to see, well, they've already shown that lab missed it. Well, what about other guys? Maybe somebody else got missed. But that probably wouldn't do a good job for them, or wouldn't be in their best interest, because they're like, we don't want to open up that can of worms, because that would just completely make us look bad. And as far as their credibility as a testing agency, like, they kind of have to go along the part that we don't make mistakes. People make mistakes. Our judicial system points that out all the time, that there's been many prosecutors that have had to go back and let people out of jail because we screwed up. Some kind of lab made a mistake, and it happens. Science has a human factor because a human is implementing the test. There are opportunities that people make mistakes, but USADA doesn't seem like, I could see them being in a situation where it would not benefit them to show anybody that, shit, we screwed up.
Yeah.